Hello guys, so today we have very special guest. Everyone who's in e-commerce space knows Josh. Josh is a founder of Snow. He's whitening systems and he's like brand creator. He has multiple brands generating, dozens and probably like hundreds of millions in revenue. And today we'll talk about some of the stuff that's currently working in customer acquisition, in e-commerce, in growing the brands. Like Josh is, walking. He's really like practicing what he preaches, unlike many people in the space. And today we'll just show he'll show exactly what's working right now. So I'm very excited for this, Josh. Thank you for agreeing this. Now today is a Sunday, so Josh is a very busy man, like working 7 days a week around his businesses, and thank you for agreeing to this call, man.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a busy time right now, but every day is busy, and so like every time I turn down, opportunities, I'd always say maybe when I'm less busy, or I'm just having a busy week, I'll try it. Let's shoot for next week. And you kind of always just try to shoot into the future. And then all of a sudden you look at your list and you've agreed to 25 dinners, 25 podcasts, all within the same week because you pushed it all off. And so it's like, you're either going to do the work when you want to do it, or the work's going to make you do it whether you want to or not. And so I like to gain a little more control over the work I'm going to do. And the truth is, it gives me a break on the weekends as well, where I have to work weekends right now. It's very busy. I enjoy it. I'm exhilarated. I wake up super passionate, so I feel really good. I'm very grateful to do this, but it's kind of like the Olympics right now for the e-commerce businesses that I own. It's the Olympics right now. And so you want to make sure that each one of your players has what they need. And so it's really energizing, but podcasts and being able to like share what we're doing kind of real time as it's happening is also a really good time for me to reflect and kind of share that openly. And so my transaction is I give you transparency for the ability for me to voice that kind of thought out in an open, unbiased, non-judgmental space. And that to me helps me solve a lot of problems, believe it or not.
So when you're talking about your, like some of the things that you're doing, like you might have some like idea or some insight from that yourself?
Yes. I mean, look, this is a form of self-reflection a lot of times, and it's very relevant because I think that the best writers and the best movie directors, et cetera, they bring you into that moment and you almost feel physically there, emotionally there, psychologically there. And for me, I have only one mode that I operate in because I'm so focused on building a better future for everything, entrepreneurship, for our business, for me, for my family. So I'm so focused on that I would say that type of passion kind of drags you along. And I think people are attracted to that. When someone is really passionate and kind of is very honest and transparent, I think that that's a very attractive trait. And I know the people I look up to have those type of traits. And I've always wanted to be like that growing up.
That's interesting, man. So it was Snow. So Snow is one that's a main brand, right? Like that you're focusing, because you have some other companies, other projects, but Snow is the main project for you.
Yeah, I mean, I made it the main project in terms of I felt that Snow and still feel that Snow, because 7 billion people have teeth, and because it's a direct to consumer, having that personification, hey, I'm the founder of that, and it's going to challenge me to be a better leader because I'm putting my name on something. And I think that because the opportunity with Snow is so large, but it also requires a lot of inertia, you have to sometimes put that much more into it. If you have the faith into it, you have to be willing to put every dollar, every opportunity, everything into that. And, Snow has been the majority of that. And because I'm crazy and I love this game so much about entrepreneurship and building businesses, I'm not only a horse bettor, I'm betting on this and I'm betting on that. And that in many ways, I feel like it's extremely high stakes gambling in many ways when you're building a business. I think nobody knows the exact path to follow. There are micro pivots along the way. And I think that exhilaration, I think that's why chess is one of the best games in the world. I think there's a virtually infinite amount of possibilities based on every move that someone makes. And so a simple board with just a couple dozen characters, all of a sudden you have so many permutations. And I think business is in that way. And that's like maybe an intellectual, way of saying I enjoy what I do. And so it definitely draws you in.
I want to talk one of the things like that. I mean, like when you look at the snow, for example, you have some of the like Drunk, for example, right? So Drunk is a partner in this business for you.
Right. Right.
So I wanted to talk about this as a strategy. Would you recommend, let's say if someone has like e-commerce brand or like an idea that they want to develop, or maybe like a brand that already has sales, at which point would you consider like finding a partner like with influence, with your audience, with power? Like, would you consider like to do it like from the start of the brand, or would you do it like when the brand already has like the proof of concept, the traction, and then to find someone and just get them involved?
I mean, you definitely the latter. You definitely should focus on what matters most, and sales and growing sales and profitable sales, or a path to profitability that's proven, something along those lines. Those metrics are more important than just about everything else. It doesn't matter how many Instagram followers you have, Facebook, fans you have. I come across, businesses all the time because I'm really fascinated with, the M&A side of things and buying and selling of businesses. And so, I get to kind of look at some of those deals as they come across, and I get asked on advice for them. And I look at those, and, there's certainly an attractive rate to everything that we're doing. And so anyway, I've come across a few of those type of reports as I look at all types of businesses. And what's most important is we have a lot of change going on. Like if I wanted to share one, topic of focus that I'm thinking about is when there's change, there's huge opportunity. And, thinking about, I just came across some of the top subscription websites, and there's one that sells toilet paper, right? But they've made it fun, and the wrapper is fun, and it's a subscription product. And you see like the hand sanitizer businesses popping up. And now that's just right at the core, but there's like this huge dynamic shift. And so for me, how do we take that dynamic shift and navigate it as a business while we're building a brand? We're not chasing trends, but we're navigating with what's going on in the world. And I think we became a lot more relevant to the voice of the consumer, and having that communication with our consumer base, that they really vibed with us. They came out to support us because I think there was a match there. We recognized what was going on with quarantine. We're a stay-at-home whitening, products business. So we're going to get you, product, no contact delivery, shipped straight to your door, Zoom meetings and all that. The smile is still important. So we started changing our messaging. So I think the consumer now more than ever is looking for relevance to their current situation. They want to know that you're, not that you're an advocate for one way or the other. You're not a politician as a brand, but that you're at least cognizant of what's going on.
Such a good point, man. So you mentioned that you have adjusted your messaging because of all of that kind of like conversations, that people have in their minds, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got it. I think that's the best marketing is to be there, especially through words, sales, copywriting, and all that. So you have to understand that the consumer is having a conversation upon arrival on your website. And so they're, even before that, even with your ad, they're looking at it and they're thinking about, this price seems too high. Oh, this price seems too low. It's probably not good quality. All of these decisions, I try to write those down on a piece of paper, that if someone coming in, say white teeth, people are really whitening their teeth. Well, let me check this out. And then let me see what I'm missing. And I go, oh, wow, they've got some celebrities, but those are probably paid. So, but they got a lot of real people here. And that one looks like me. You've had this conversation in, 100 different ways, but you have this conversation in your head. You say, okay, how do we make our buyer feel comfortable? Where are the hesitation points in that user journey, from ad to the congruency to the landing page? So we're thinking about that experience, so that we believe that we have an opportunity to tell a story to a prospect, and we're telling them the story and we're kind of stringing them along, but we don't want them to feel threatened at any point. We want them to feel comfortable. We want this to be consistent so that they don't get kind of worried. Are they lying? What's going on? So we think about that user journey and say, okay, someone who has never whitened their teeth before, they're showing up, and what would they like to see? And I think breaking down that persona of what your customer is going through, even just thinking about it, you'll find that there are potholes in every single website. Some are huge, gaping holes, but it's something that I think I've become better at. And it's made the businesses that I run very much more efficient and much more scalable by thinking about where are the holes in our business today.
How do you do that? Like, do you like hire like data science companies, like, paying them like huge retainers, or is that just like common sense and just, reading through reviews and comments and stuff like that?
I haven't hired enough. I've gone through dozens of agencies of all sorts, not just on the marketing front. And I will tell you that even if they weren't able to accomplish what we set out to do together, one, we end up in a better position in one way or another. And it's kind of that, that growth over time. So, with the agency side of things, we continue to use, agencies because we're able to find those subject areas per platform. And, that's what allowed us to go omni-channel, so quickly. I don't know if that answers
I see your ads everywhere. Like, I see them on display. I see them on like, on Facebook. Like they're like everywhere. Like,
yeah. Listen, even for me as CEO of this business, even for me, I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, how much are we spending on advertising again? I have to kind of look at that sometimes, but I'll tell you what, it's also a drug in many ways in terms of, at a certain amount of scale, you have to watch operationally, you have to watch your business as you scale, because if you go out and you say, wow, we're growing so fast, I'm going to go and get a huge warehouse, that's $50,000 a month, but we're going to grow into it in 3 months. But at the rate we're growing, keeping that discipline, I think, because Snow is, my 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th, successful business. For me, it's like giving it room to breathe, giving the business a little bit of room to breathe and figure that out. It's given me the flexibility on the cost side. We don't have a huge office, we don't have, we have everything we need, but there's nothing crazy. And that allows us to make a lot less on advertising than anybody else would normally make. It gives us that flexibility. And so that drug is, as your payroll scales, as things scale, you have to make a certain amount of money every month in order to keep growing. And so it does push you in that direction. But I would urge everybody to focus on the number that matters most, which is the EBITDA, the profit. If a business is not profitable, it has failed its one and only job. The job of a business is to return more capital than you put in. It's an input output machine. The business is the machine right in the middle. And your machine, you're putting money in and you're getting less out, burn it, shoot it. Or if it's equaling the exact same money, why are you wasting your time? Go put it in another machine. So you're going to want to put your money in that machine that's making the most money. Sometimes you got to take a business to the back of the barn and shoot it. Other times you have to repair it and rehab it, but you have to have that real conversation. And so I would urge everyone, as you scale through, luckily in our position, I kind of felt that and knew that, the team knew that, and everyone was on the same page of what matters is the customer and the products that we're creating. And we have 7 billion people in our addressable market. We need to stay focused on what matters. And it's that, I think, is what kept us. So if you don't have that kind of compass, that kind of North Star, it's sometimes difficult, because you start running around and you want to create, 500 different categories in your business, because you're like, oh, I figured it out on one, I got to have 500 of them. So it is very easy to fall into that.
I had conversations like with, a few guys that have sold their businesses, like 8-9 figure, exits. And obviously, like the brand that you're building, it could be like a very good like acquisition, for some bigger brands. But what you just mentioned, right? So you're not building this brand so brand by itself is profitable, right? So just by itself, it can function. It is profitable. It's not just like one goal that it has to be sold, right? It just can function as much time as necessary, right? Is that right assumption?
That's the thing. Look, it's the days of change where in SaaS, software as a service, you can get those valuations and you can raise a lot of money. You can even go public. But if you look at the successful ones in the evolved age of today, we're in the middle of still a pandemic, an economic pandemic. And so investors are a lot more, they have a lot of cash to put in, but they want more certainty. And so when you look at Peloton and their ability to be profitable on selling the bike which
Mhm.
then is a Trojan horse for the subscription business.
Mhm.
That is a model that is incredibly scalable because they're profiting on driving a subscription worth $500. So
Mhm.
you can do that infinitely. And so that model made sense to go public. Casper on the mattress space, maybe not as much. They're a sleep platform. By the way, I'm a huge Casper fan. I've learned a ton from them and actually dig their products. But I think that the days of being able to get the market valuation because of your growth, your revenue growth, is not really there. If you're not profitable on acquiring that customer, and Facebook
Mhm.
ads are going to only continue to go up. This happened with Google, same thing, different platform. So Facebook is only going to continue to go up. If you don't have the ability in your business to pause your Facebook ads for 3 months
Mhm.
and your business does okay, then that's the indicator of a business. And that's okay because a lot of people are in that position right now where if you shut off your Facebook ads for 6 months straight, you wouldn't have a business anymore. And
Mhm.
that unfortunately, a lot of e-commerce companies are in that position. We've spent the last 18 months, we're still halfway in it, but we've removed ourselves a lot further from being in one single traffic source, but it was not easy. So I think those difficulties are something that are of the modern day companies that are able to be capital efficient in
Mhm.
acquiring customers, making money on the first sale. And so to your point, if the business is self-sustaining, it's paying its own bills, it's running, it's
Mhm.
doing its own thing, and it's growing, then you know where to put your resources and you don't have to worry about that business in the same way versus I'm going to grow something for 5 years and sell it for $1 billion and I'm going to raise whatever money I have to raise and I'm just going to go,
Mhm.
go, go. Sometimes that works. Trust me. Sometimes that works. And there are
Mhm.
huge wins there. But in e-commerce, if you're not making money on your customer in the first purchase or the second one, you're going to be in trouble because and if you're getting all your customers via Facebook or Instagram or
Mhm.
Google, you're also in trouble. So you have figuring out turning your business from just one product, two product, three product into what it could really be, or
Mhm.
selling it to someone who can turn it into what it can really be. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to compete on a platform like Facebook.
I see you. I follow your page, man. And thank you, by the way, for a few pieces of advice that I took from you. I was at your talk in San Diego. It was like, I think it was last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a iStack event, I guess. And I guess there, like you said that at that point, at least, like you didn't work from home, that you had an office, that it created like this type of like discipline. And I took that piece of advice, and we have an office, we have people in the office, man, and that was very impactful in terms of the productivity. That was very impactful. Our revenue like increased quadrupled literally like in a year. And thank you for that piece of advice. And another piece of advice that I got from you, and actually what is the Harvard Business Reviews case studies.
Yeah.
It was like $8 or whatever they cost. So much for them. Do you still read them, by the way?
Yeah. I'm a huge case study reader. Like case studies are so great because so much research goes into them. And there's nothing like, say, I love case studies because some are done in progress, but most are done as a closed case study.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like watching the investigative discovery, like the murder TV shows, and you're kind of following along this kind of sinister plot. With the case studies, it's like here's a problem in a big business and how they maybe solved it. It's like a mystery. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think the mystery of case studies is really exciting to me. So I digest those, like crazy. And congratulations on that. That's great. I think that, getting an office, we have offices for most of our businesses, but it does, in most instances, it doesn't work every time, but in most instances, it does give the business a reality. It's not just zeros and ones on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reality. These are the people I'm responsible for. This is
Mm-hmm.
what's on the wall. These are the awards that we're walking into. It gets here early in the morning because you have somewhere to be because people are there waiting and expecting you. It causes you to think bigger, and you go, you know what? If we're going to do this, we're going to do it big, and it pushes that type of dialogue. And right now I've got a hybrid model. I'm working from home and I'm working at the office, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
great balance because I can go and get the energy from my team and give them the support on whatever parts of the business they need help on. We can all connect. And so that hybrid model, then I can come to my cave, like I'm here in my place in Arizona right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
can come here in my room and knock out a bunch of work. So that flex space is really, really important. I think that a lot of people should question their work habits and what makes them most productive. And you'll be surprised, a lot of times it's not just working 12 hours every single day, it's
Mhm.
working better hours and more optimized. So
Mm.
that's stuff I'm still trying to learn.
And so you have multiple businesses, right? And
Yeah.
some of those, would you say those are more like cash flow, like profit oriented businesses that, they're not as sellable, for example, as Snow or other like e-commerce brands?
Yeah, I mean, so with Snow, I'm the solo founder and CEO and funder, and we haven't raised any outside money, no debt,
Mm.
things like that. So that Snow was always from day one, and and I let my partners know, all my partners know that I'm on a mission with
Mhm.
Snow, and that mission is very important to the man that I am and the man that I want to be, more importantly.
Mhm.
And it's not a certain dollar amount, it's not a certain anything. There's just a certain level of the game of entrepreneurship and creating value for people. Like there's a certain level there, and it's dangerous because if you tie it to a number or you tie it to a dollar amount, it just continues to grow and grow and grow, and you never stop working. You never,
Mm.
this is my sport. I absolutely love my sport. And sometimes, like Tom Brady, if he wants to play another year and he's able to win another championship, why would you stop the guy from doing what he loves? And like,
Mm.
I really enjoy this a lot. And I want to earn a certain level of respect from even myself more than anyone else, of
Mhm.
myself, my future self, to say, hey, you know what, you worked really hard, like you stayed focused, you really did some great things, you inspired a lot of people. I'm working to make my future proud, my future myself proud. I'm my own biggest critic. I don't look to my left and my right. I look to my left and right only to see if people around me need support and like thumbs up and they're doing well. I focus on what I'm doing, and that happens to attract other people that see what I'm doing. They're like, this dude's actually going to do it. He's crazy enough. He's going to do it. I want to be a part of this. And so I stay really focused, in that area. But the businesses, I have great operating partners
Mhm.
that, outside of Snow, I have great operating partners that, I'm able to really compartmentalize my time, and I'm
Mhm.
working on all of them at once, because one business uses the resources of the other business, uses the resources of the others, not in terms of cash, but in terms of, I've got access to this celebrity. Let's use it for over here versus over here. It matches more here. Being able to recruit, being able to do a lot of stuff. So my businesses together give me 5 challenges a day. So I
Mhm.
feel like I'm listening to an Audible book at 5 times speed because I'm taking in those inputs. It's extremely challenging, extremely difficult. It's, where my position is, a lot of times I'm tasked with solving alongside my partners the most difficult challenges in the business. And so it is very strenuous when, that time comes. It's very strenuous, and those decisions are big. So you have to be in a tip top mental shape. And so I'm not always there. Some days I'm off. But I think that my brain going through 5 different lanes on a
Mhm.
daily basis, Snow being one that is so difficult brand in terms of what we've done so far, which is amazing.
Mhm.
It is a difficult one. So it requires more of that, but it's the spillover from Snow for everything else I'm involved in is massive.
Mhm.
So I think we all, and all my partners, like we all agree that Snow needs to continue to be successful and continue to grow and truly have wings of its own, because it benefits all of us. I'm Josh Snow, right? And like all the stuff that I do benefits from the relationships, the networks, and the leverage I have, and the leverage we've built as a team with our customers. So it builds upon itself, but I don't recommend going out and starting 5 businesses and trying to be successful in each one of them. I'm
Mhm.
in a very unique position over the last, 10 to 15 years to build business partners, or to connect with business partners, build businesses with them that are very successful, and be able to little by little add to my plate as we built out teams and did that stuff. But Snow is definitely very important in terms of what we're trying to prove also for entrepreneurship, in terms of taking on that bigger challenge. I see the DMs every day, hundreds of DMs from Instagram about people listening to what we're talking about right now. And it might, they'll listen to one podcast, and then they'll go and find, the other 20 or 30. And
Mhm.
I try to bring a different perspective, today's perspective, and what my thoughts are on it today, because I think that evolution, self-reflection is, I think, very important, because it challenges, I know it challenges me to look at ourselves and say, what type of entrepreneur are we right now? What type of entrepreneur do we want to be? And are we actually making traction? Are we actually making movement there? And, there's no, self-help or anything book that's going to do it for you. There's going to be one that might trigger it. But, I really learned to appreciate the content that we cover on podcasts and different presentations, because it serves as a growing tool for me as well.
What's your learning process? Like, let's say you want to figure out new advertising channel, you want to figure out some process. What's your typical learning process? Do you just start consuming as much information as possible, or do you find the best people in the field and you ask them? How do you typically do that?
I mentioned we talked about the case studies, which are a big piece, but I think I have an obsessive mind when I'm trying to solve something. I think a lot of us do. It's like a challenge gets presented and we can't help but solve it. And sometimes life a little bit difficult in certain instances, because if we can't find a solution for everything, we feel inadequate potentially. And so I'm speaking for myself, at least, where I think learning is so important. And who you learn from, what you're learning at the moment. I could learn about gardening or singing or, the mechanics of a printer. But for me, I need to learn what's relevant to today. Okay, we're manufacturing this type of product. I really want to understand what these ingredients are. So I'm going to go and do research on ingredients. I'm going to spend 5 hours in silence researching every ingredient, and I am coming out with the final ingredient for our lip balm. So that's what I'm doing. And so what it does,
as a founder, it's not like chemist somewhere. It's you, right?
It starts with the team, right? So we'll look at all the top sellers out there. We'll look at why do certain brands use a certain ingredient over another? What is the blogosphere talking about these ingredients? Are there any no-nos that we need to be aware of, so we can test ourselves and make sure it's the best product? So that procurement strategy takes place at the team level. But I am so invested in our product quality. It's so important. And so it's very important, because if you think about it, I spend a lot of the day inside of Snow selling. And so selling means I'm explaining what we're doing. I'm trying to communicate what we have done already with 25 million shoppers, but look how far we have to go. And here's where we're at right now. This is why we should work together. And so I'm selling that vision, on a day-to-day basis. And so you have to have a crystal clear depiction of where your market is, what's going on. And I think that if you're trying to sell, if you're the highest level of sales, which the CEO is ultimately always going to be at the highest level of sales in its own way. And, I think to have that belief in the product, where it's oh no, I was in those discussions. I was at the manufacturer. I remember mixing that. I know how it mixes. And when that level, when you're writing copy, which I still do a lot of sales ad copy, or at least reviewing some of it, for certain campaigns we're running, if it's a, billboard or a radio ad, I'll kind of give recommendations in and stuff. So, that is so important, but being involved down to the product level for my business is very important, because it gives me the confidence when I'm talking about on a podcast, or I'm, talking to a buyer from a retail store. I know exactly what those ingredients are, but I usually time block my learning period and say, I've got 5 hours to learn this stuff. After that, I'm going to watch a show that I want to watch on Netflix. I'm going to order some Chinese food. I can reward myself, but I must leave that room with that finished formula, because what happens is I start making excuses in my head, and then I want to do this, and then I got to check my phone, and then, but I got to get food. And then just sometimes you just got to cram yourself in and say, I'm going to learn this, and really become obsessed about the topic. And I'll look at YouTube, podcasts, anything that I can grab that's in there. I use a platform called Ask Wonder, and Ask Wonder is, I think that's the website, but Ask Wonder is, I think it's it. Let me just see here. You can go on here and you can ask a question, and you've got MIT graduates, Harvard graduates, who are on here, who will go and do the research for you in record time.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it's, it's I've learned that the biggest role
is in my companies that I have to, be really sharp about is the ability to communicate, is very, very important. And then thinking. So like I have to be thinking all the time, problem solving. And then, I have to be able to execute and make those decisions. So this is a great way for me to go and get other people. I'm always thinking about other people. How can I get other people involved to help me get more done? And this is a great way to have a researcher, for example, you say, I'm doing a presentation next week. I'd like some stats that are going to be really useful. Here's what I'm doing. $300 later, you've got, someone who did all this research with the resources on it. And so case studies in a lot of ways are time collapsing of distilling information. So I'm always looking at, when I'm looking to learn something, who can I learn from? Then sometimes I'll go to clarity.fm. I'm on there as well. I use it as a customer, clarity.fm, and I'll type in branding. I want to talk to someone in branding. I want to type in some retail. I want to talk to someone in retail. So I'm looking at who can I talk to? And what are the condensed formats of what I'm trying to learn? How relevant are they and how reputable are they? So case studies are great because I can see the post-mortem, I can see how much money they're making, all of that. So I picked those areas, and you want to find 5 to 10 areas, news sources for you to kind of stay in the know of what's going on, because it really does come down to relevance. The goal is, as a company will go out of business no matter how big they are. Once they lose relevance for long enough, they will struggle. And so it's an everyday challenge to say, is my brand remaining relevant? How do we follow that relevancy so that we remain relevant to our customers, which means that they keep buying from us? It's a constant fight. We're all in the same fight. And so, fight for survival to continue to grow. And, I use tools like this to sometimes kind of, outsource some of that, because there's only, I have the same 24 hours that I had 5 years ago, so I just got to do a lot more with it, which means the only choice is to use resources in order to help do that.
So I know you're a big fan of cars, right? How many cars do you have?
I think I've got 4 cars now. I've been offloading some of them recently.
Cool. So does it help you to kind of so do you just drive, and does it help you to think, or unload some of the, just think more clearly? Do you use it for that, or is just your hobby and you like to drive fast?
I think the honest truth is, it feels good. I feel, I could work 8 hours straight. I deal with back pain every day. And so, some days are better than others, but I can be my back all messed up, and I can go and say, I'm going to go get a smoothie, in my Ferrari and go and drive my Ferrari. I don't care who's out there. I don't care what it is, but just even hearing the engine and getting in that car, and it's a good realization of this is why I work hard, and it feels good. And everybody's different. And the other thing too is, people treat you differently. You pull up to a place and all of a sudden it's, hi, sir, and how can I help you, sir? And you get treated differently. And who doesn't want to be treated with respect? And I think that to me is what's very nice. I think they're more than plaques. They're not just trophies that I'm just leave them there. I drive them. I couldn't tell you more than 5 things about any of my cars. I know the name of them. I might know the year. I kind of know what I paid for it, or pretty close. These few things I know. I think they're great. I think they're beautiful, and they're fast, and they're fun, and I enjoy them. But sometimes it is what gets me going. It gets sometimes in the morning, going and getting a coffee in my nice car. It sets my day up to be hey, I've got to be the type of guy that earns a life like this. I've got to be that guy that people, maybe think I am, or if they think they don't know me, they see me driving, they go, oh, there's some douchebag, or there's some rich kid or something, whatever. It's for me, it's I feel good about myself. And so I think sometimes I buy things that I don't really want. I don't really need them. I don't really want them, but it's almost like a form, like a trophy. It's you buy, why do people buy art, or why do people buy, big plaques and stuff, I think that's a piece of it. And I love cars. I love driving. I love driving fast. I drive safe, and I train and all that, but I love to drive fast. I have a good time doing it. It makes me feel good. And I think that for a lot of people, materialism has been talked about in such a bad way. But I think that those trophies are important, like that Olympic gold medal. Although it's just, a thing you could replicate pretty easily, that is something of a symbol. It's symbolic. And so when you think about branding, if you can become symbolic, like Tiffany, you know, Tiffany, the jewelry company, you know, Harry Winston with the engagement rings. If you can become part of an iconic and emotional moment in someone's life, you know, you build a brand that's really strong there. So, you know, those are just things as and by the way, most of this stuff is just reflection on.
Man, but I mean, this is so good because I mean, I think there's a lot of the way you explain it, like makes so much sense because, you know, there are a lot of people like, you know, running ads like on YouTube in front of their cars and just like in order to sell like their like information products. But the way you explain it as a, you know, as an entrepreneur to just reinforce the thing that you're doing, you know, that's massive, you know, like reinforcing the self-image, I guess, right, as well.
Well, you know what happens too is if you feed into it, it becomes like, you know, I had never had like Wagyu steak or like, you know, this stuff growing up. And so when I was 16 years old and I started making, you know, a little bit of money, I went to the nicest part of town, you know, I had by myself and I had I had truffle fries. I didn't know what truffle fries were. I didn't even know what truffle was. And so, you know, I had that experience. And of course you're like, I want to eat truffle fries every day. And, you know, I want to eat like everything. I want to be the type of person that can afford to tip my server, you know, 50%. You know, I want to become that, you know, I want to eat at these type of restaurants and you see valet and you're like, wow, $25 to valet. I want to be the type of person that can have a car that I want to valet where $25 is a no brainer. And like, yes, there's a certain level of consumerism and materialism that can be toxic. Absolutely. You know, how much money is too much? And like, what are you really going to do with it? I agree with that. And so for me, there is a certain draw to, you know, what got me into entrepreneurship from the beginning, which was I wanted to live a better life. I wanted to provide a better life. And I think that we may lose that sometimes because we get complacent, we get comfortable and things like that. A lot of things happen in life, stressful events happen. You may doubt yourself, but it's like, look, you got yourself where you are today and you have technically had no bad days because you're still here today and just kind of wiping that past clear and being able to say, what do I actually thrive off of in life? And like, I love that I'm able to live a great lifestyle while I'm building, you know, a brand like Snow. And that's something that I didn't necessarily have before, where I'm able to really kind of focus and really settle in and really put my energy across my businesses and work hard. And, you know, it's been a huge transition over the last few years, but Snow has been in many ways a phenomenal platform for me because it's allowed me to connect with other entrepreneurs in a large scale way, in a mass scale way, simply by showing them what we're doing behind the scenes. And, you know, that over time, people have subscribed to the story, you know, whether they own the products or not. I don't use my Instagram to sell products. I'll share a lot of things because I share promotions because I want people to see what we're doing. And so that kind of progression of people buying into that story over time and really helping. I mean, the community is very helpful of Snow whenever we need something.
Man, like I've been monitoring like your kind of like evolution. Like I see like your products here, your products Best Buy, like, you know, and also all of the acquisitions that you're sharing, like it's, you know, also like check what's the acquisition, you know, all of these stories, like the trends and stuff. Like what's your main like source of like information for the acquisition, for exit? Do you just Google it or there are like specific places to look?
You know, I'm friends now with a few investment bankers, and I never thought I would say that, but I really enjoy these guys and they're brilliant and they're very nice. And so, you know, they're looking at deals in the space all the time. PEHub.com is like private equity hub. PE Hub is like one of the main ones. And then there's some in the beauty space like WWD, you know, I think it's Women's Wear Daily or something. I may have butchered that, but WWD.com. And there are a bunch of other, you know, websites, but usually I'll get sent it. Usually it'll come up in my feed because it's people that I follow. I'm in some D2C WhatsApp groups and sometimes they'll post stuff in there as soon as they see it. So I get it from kind of all over, and I go to PE Hub and I go to WWD and I go to TechCrunch.com sometimes. And, you know, I have a daily news little drop down in my Chrome and I just kind of click away and kind of see what's there. And I've got Flipboard on my iPad. So I'm constantly like looking around at that stuff. It's very fascinating to me. And, you know, I think that the ultimate form of success as a company, aside from lasting 100 years and never going out of business, you know, longevity is key, is that being able to, you know, go public and have a liquidation event for shareholders, or being able to have that validation from a competitor or from a strategic partner or from a private equity firm or from the market, the public market. there is that ultimate form, which that is, I would say in many ways, that is the Super Bowl. That is the grand finale. That's the World Cup of business, is when you're at that level. And so, of course, every business wants to make it into the Olympics in some way, shape, or form. For me, what I found a lot of joy inside of is in product development. I absolutely love product development. I always have. Product development is so, so important. And then once you have a platform through your business, in terms of you've got millions of people coming to the website each month or each year or whenever, you have something there living and breathing. It's very exciting. And when you look at my different businesses, it's a different problem every single day to solve. And it's very exhilarating. It's very addicting to see that. And then of course, yeah, you're looking at the numbers. I mean, the only score we have in business is, revenue and profit, right? It's like, we don't have we have market cap if you're a public company, which is why it's the bigger game. But it's like, there are only a few scores here. I try to be super transparent with my team about what our goals are on a revenue monthly basis. What are we trying to do? Why does it make sense? And then opening it up to their feedback and getting the ideas from my team. Because if I don't open that floor up as a leader, why would I hire a team that I wouldn't want to open the floor to? I respect each and every person that works with me. They're my team. And so sometimes we get too much feedback, but I'd rather get too much feedback than no feedback at all, because then I'm having to make decisions every day and I'm not right every time. But with my team, I'm right way more times than I am by myself.
We talked a lot about business. We will have to wrap up. I know you're a busy man and then Sunday. So what, in terms of the health and like both like mental health and physical health, what has worked for you recently? What things you've learned, maybe some of the things that you stopped doing? What would you say would be those main learning experiences you've had recently?
Yeah, I would say, look, being an entrepreneur and growing a brand, growing a business it's to me, it's the most difficult, but the most rewarding thing in life. And that's for me. And everyone's got their own passions and projects. And as an entrepreneur, the world is, your canvas and you're painting on it. And we all want to be Picasso. We all want to be, all of Van Gogh, and we want to put our mark on the world. And so, I think that is a very lonely experience sometimes. It's a very lonely experience. I think that living in the future, makes the present not as exciting. It makes it, you have to tolerate it in order to get to next year. And, oh, great, we did $1 million in one day. That means we could do $10 million in one day. And it's that excitement is fleeting. And so, and it's lonely because depending on where you come from, or it doesn't matter if your family's $1 billion family or a $1 family, either way, we all go through our own adversities, but it's amplified when you're having to do something in business. And you may have a business partnership dispute. You may have an employee dispute. You may have a vendor dispute. You may spend too much money on something and make a big mistake. Everything happens every single day, all day long. And so you have to realize that, and I've started to realize that, look, everything does get better and we continue to grow. And if we have a challenge, this is the best and biggest year in every single one of my businesses. And we've broken records this year, biggest day, biggest weekend, biggest month in the heart of the pandemic. And we didn't have to lay anybody off. And, we're really counting those blessings. And really, as we go into the new year, sales are starting to skyrocket across the platforms because of Black Friday, because people can't go and shop. And so we're going to have an extraordinary quarter. But we have a lot of new products we're launching next year. We're really excited to get to next year. But I think for me, it's been podcast, working out. Just even going on the recumbent bike or going on the elliptical or going on the treadmill, popping stuff on. I'm able to work half of the time. I'll grab my phone. So if I'm walking, sometimes I'm sending text. I'm reading who got acquired, M&A, what should I share on social media? What did people message me? So I'm working while I'm working out, and I'll burn up to 1,000 calories and I'll get a lot of stuff done. So what I've swapped out is I used to wake up in the morning, grab my phone, sit in bed for 1 hour answering emails. And by the time, I wanted to do something, I was already irritable and oh gosh, it's one of those days, you start to get in your own head. So I go, look, I'm going to do that anyway. I'm going to lay in bed for an hour anyway. Why don't I get up out of bed, just get on the treadmill, get on the bike, and I can go through those motions while I'm on the bike, and I can think. I put my AirPods in, and most of the time I'm listening to nothing. and it just noise cancels. So I'm sitting there and I'm going through what I need to do today. Who do I need to get back to? I'm responding to text messages because I'm always 1,000 emails behind and 100 text messages behind. I'm always behind on everything because there's so much coming in every day, but there's also so much happening internally that I have barely enough time to manage that and then try to keep up with this. It's overwhelming. So you have to you choose a baseline. You say, look, this is what I'm going to work. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to push myself to be disciplined. So when when I wake up in the morning now, I try to push myself to the gym, sit there, go through texts, go through all those motions. I leave, I feel better about myself. And instead of saying, oh, it's one of those days, it's like, today's going to be a good day. Like I got most of that stuff done. I'm pretty caught up. I worked out. I feel good. I showered. So like, I think the rituals that we do every day are so, so important. Staying hydrated throughout the day. When I'm dehydrated, I'm irritable. I feel nauseous. I don't feel as good. I want to take a nap. I get tired. I get hungry. So like figuring out the body, I'm not talking about, I don't do yoga, which I think is great. I want to get into yoga. I don't meditate as often as I should. But for me, it's like controlling my day and I have to force myself to do those things because I exhaust a lot of discipline in business. And I feel like in my head, I tell myself the story, there's a tank of discipline. And so something has to give. So sometimes I'll give into food cravings or I'll give into other things, which is true in many aspects. But I think for keeping sane, I think that having those moments of reflection when you're working out or you go out for a run or you go out for a swim or you even sit in the bathtub, I don't know, like one ritual where you're as alone as possible. And if you're absolutely crazy like me right now, it's busy, I can't get my hands off my phone. You can bring your phone and still get a workout in. And then you've got to time collapse. You got to say, I'm going to put 2 hours. I'm going to put my phone in the kitchen. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to relax because those breaks throughout the day, actually, in my experience, allow me to think more clearly, allow me to solve problems more clearly when I have those breaks.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I want to be respectful of your time. I mean, I would talk with you like for the next like 6 hours, but I want to be respectful of your time, man. Thank you very much. I mean, I'll share the links like where people can find you, where people can follow you. I mean, I enjoy like following your past, like how you're evolving and when you sell snow, like, and then start another even bigger company. So thank you for sharing a lot of great insights. I took a lot of notes myself and, yeah, man, I'm excited to see like what will be the next step for you. And thank you for sharing. I think a lot of people will benefit from it. Thank you for being like so open and transparent and like straight to the point. It's awesome, man. Thank you.
Of course, Alex. Of course, brother. I appreciate it. Stay in touch and take care. And I'm excited to come back and tell you what's going on a little bit from now.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks, Josh.
Yes. Yeah. Take care.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you can just like this video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. Thank you.